Americans are losing access to the entire world in 2026. But understand, for most of the past half century, Americans have traveled the world with a quiet assumption. You have the blue passport, you can go anywhere you want at any time. Borders are open, flights are easy to get, and the passport in our pockets would act like a universal key where we could basically prance around this world and do whatever we wanted. But this collapse that just happened was kind of dramatic. It was seemingly overnight, and it was also a little bit subtle too, because there are these accumulating shifts that are happening, especially in the Iran war right now. You know, the war that America is currently fighting right now with Israel to defeat Iran, even though they already took out their Ayatollah and 40 leaders of the Iranian government. But one of the most important developments sits in a place most travelers have never even heard of. It's called Kharg Island, Kharg. It's a small island in the Persian Gulf that handles 85 to 90% of Iran's oil exports. From there, tankers pass through and go through the Strait of Hormuz to export oil or to import oil to Iran. When analysts talk about these choke points, Hormuz is always near the top of the list for good reason, okay? And recently, America bombed this Kharg Island. And Iran, well, they may decide to bomb other American assets in the Middle East like Dubai. I mean, they're quite literally dropping bombs out the sky today to send strikes into Dubai to potentially try and harm America or to try and do something that will deter the American Third Reich, so to speak, the Americans with the Israelis that are going through and causing a lot of havoc in the Middle East. And unfortunately, the US military, the Marines, have technically already been deployed. I mean, they just announced it this past week. And I mean, as of right now, they're probably 6 to 9 days out, maybe just a week out from landing in the Middle East. The Marines are the most powerful force that the military has access to. These land troops look like they may be on standby, but what comes next is going to be something that is far worse, that a lot of us have never seen and are not prepared for. I really need you to understand this. The modern world runs on oil the way ancient empires once ran on grain, which raises an important question for Americans who travel, invest, and move abroad. What happens when the infrastructure supporting global movement becomes less predictable? I mean, if you were to go and look at flights right now, they have already doubled in some spaces. One of our clients told us today, hey, California oil prices are currently at about $8, and our prices down in Texas are incrementally increasing too. But this is the quiet shift in global mobility that is definitely going to affect you as an expat, whether you're in Vietnam, Mauritius, South Africa, Seychelles, Kenya, Senegal, or somewhere else in the world. Countries that once welcomed foreign residents without much scrutiny are now going to change the rules. Golden visa programs are being restructured, not withheld, but definitely restructured towards only bringing in Americans who create some type of value in the economy, who are in innovation, marketing, AI, content creation, things of that nature, because it brings immediate value to these foreign economies. And if you cannot prove that you have this value, well, you must just get a multiple entry pass visa and have to leave every 90 to 180 days at the helm of whatever immigration officer says whatever they feel like saying at that time. And nations are beginning to treat residency, mobility, and economic participation as strategic resources, almost like gold and oil. This doesn't mean that borders are closing entirely. I do not want you to get this wrong, but access is definitely becoming more conditional. No, my husband has been so busy with all of these consultations and the mature adult intensive, the 4-week intensive, which is now closed because we're at capacity and it closed down 2 weeks ago. And then also in the Sunday Market Blueprint, where he talks about gold, oil trading, and then also in our one-to-one strategic global mobility one-to-one consultations, where we extend this conversation with you. So if you're like, wow, this is interesting stuff, I want to know how geopolitics affects my move, I want to go somewhere that has 5 to 10 year residency instead of just jumping border to border in World War III, then this is the place for you. Check out the link in the description because we have 3 spots available for this week and next week. And now we got to look at the United States, you know, the great country of America that the world has been absolutely enthralled with all of these decades. Well, we have rising costs of living in America, political polarization, global competition with emerging economic blocs like BRICS, the Asian region that's in Asia, Pan-African movements within the continent, and more. Energy and security tensions that are increasing, and then we didn't even add in the fact that America and Europe are not really on the best of terms for the first time since like the 1812 war, okay? When France and America fought on America's soil. But when these pressures combine, people begin to think about optionality, as they should. Where can I live? Where can I invest? Where can I homeschool? Where can I expand my business? Where can I build stability for the future, for my children's children, for my nieces, my nephews, and my cousins? Whew. This is one reason interest in relocation and second residency programs has increased so much. I don't know if you heard from the Wall Street Journal. We covered it on this channel a couple of weeks ago. The fact that more Americans this year, just in the past year, 2025 to 26, have moved abroad than ever before in history since the Great Depression. But I want to run some scenarios with you. These are like simulations. We're going to talk about how bad this oil thing can really get in America and across the globe. So, simulation number 1. If oil routes tighten, let's consider what happens next. Imagine the tensions around the Strait of Hormuz reduce oil shipments by 10% to 15%. This is very modest for the next several months. Energy prices would likely spike, as they already are. Airplane tickets would rise globally, like they already are. And shipping costs would ripple through food and manufacturing markets. Governments might prioritize domestic supply chains, while airlines and cargo companies adjust routes and schedules. Travel itself doesn't stop, but it becomes more expensive and less predictable, unfortunately. In a world like that, people with flexibility, residency options, diversified geographical locations have the true distinct advantage, okay? But let's imagine another scenario real quick. Let's say a family or entrepreneur begins planning years before a crisis rather than during one, and they open international banking relationships. They have an international business. They build income streams that are actually not tied to a single jurisdiction. When global volatility appears, they already have their alternatives. It's designed. This is the difference between movement and strategy. But here's the mistake that a whole lot of people make, especially expats. History shows that people rarely prepare for structural changes until it is just way too late. The main mistake is by the time these flaws in the system and global crisis becomes obvious, the best residency options may be a thing of the past. You may be jumping on this bandwagon too late, but I want to provide a sense of hope for you. There are places that exist on the continent, like Mauritius, like Botswana, like Rwanda, that have 5 to 10 year residency pathways, whereas other markets like a Kenya, a Tanzania, and others around the continent only issue 2 to 3 year residence permits. Now that's fine when the world is, up to regular speed. But imagine in a crisis like COVID where the world locks down, you want to be somewhere that has stability. Well, we're in that crisis now, but this time it's not COVID. It's not a pandemic. It's war. Wars and rumors of wars, more wars, and additional wars, not to mention that the Strait of Hormuz is already closed. President Donald Trump says he is vying with the European nations and a few of his other allies to bring these people together to the Strait of Hormuz to basically defeat Iran, because Iran said that they are going to set anyone ablaze who tries to go through the Strait of Hormuz. They have already proved that they will with Thailand and Japan. They sent ships and both ships were set ablaze, and so this war is not going anywhere anytime soon. But as an expat, that doesn't mean that you have to stay in America. It doesn't mean that you have to stay trapped, but it does mean that you're going to require a new strategy, because Kharg Island, the Strait of Hormuz, and the global energy markets are a part of the story that is going to change history forever. You're a part of it too. The world is not closing, but it's becoming more strategic about who enters, who invests, and who stays, and why they stay. For Americans paying attention, the lesson is not fear. The lesson is strategy, preparedness, innovation, being a forward thinker, literally functioning like the CEO next door that has all their papers in order, all of their banking stuff in order, their business is profitable, they're able to flow throughout different territories of the world on their multiple residence permits, and they are being wise about their decisions. The people who think about positioning early tend to find doors while they're still open instead of while they're on the way out, and while others are only beginning to look for them. Shalom, shalom. I'll see you in the next video. Let me know your biggest takeaway, and let me know what your plan B escape plan is. If you don't have it, well, you may want to binge the Mauritius Africa playlist on our channel and start to hatch your escape plan if things get too tough for you in America, if things get too chaotic in Southern America, or even if things are too rough in North Africa, West Africa, different territories of the world where you're like, hey, I need a bit more stability and I need a bit more neutrality so that my family will be safe in this next great deep depression.